James Ernest of the Gruel and Truth Radio Network here with Kostya Kennedy, the author of The Story of Baseball in 100 Photographs. Is it possible to tell America's story without telling baseball story?
That's a great question. I say no. Certainly not America's story of the past 150 years, which is when baseball began with its first openly professional team in 1869. And, you know, some of the great moments we remember in baseball are self-contained to the diamond and to the games themselves. But, of course, a big part of baseball history is intertwined with the overall fabric of American history and American culture.
This is going to sound like an odd question, and I don't mean it like literally. This is more of, interpretive. What is baseball?
Well, it's a uniquely American game, and in that I say it's different from all other games, and it's something that I think baseball needs to remember to embrace. That it's different. You know, it's the only sport where the defense has the ball. It's the only sport of the mainstream sports where there's no clock. It's completely timeless. Obviously, there are certain other sports such as tennis and cricket and things like that also have no clock. But it's also a game that very much in the American spirit celebrates the individual in context of the team. So that, you know, when you're up, you're up. It's just you. When the ball is hit to you, you have to make the play. And of course you're a part of the team, but it's not, you are sort of given a chance to make your own mark in a more conspicuous way, I think, than in many other sports, certainly in say, football or soccer. And so it's, in many ways, it really is a game that mirrors the American values and sort of the American motif of success and working together and also working for oneself.
Was it difficult to narrow it down to 100 photos?
Well, we had thousands to start with, James. So yes, it definitely was. There's a handful that are sort of no-brainers, and in the earliest years, up until about 1920, there were some really good photographs, but there weren't quite the thousands that you have later. So it was hard. In some ways, it was liberating to know we were defined in that way, just as a sporting event is defined by number of innings or number of outs. We were defined by an amount of real estate, and in some ways it was liberating. But certainly there were a lot of tough choices.
What criteria did you have going into it? I mean, was it more about its influence on the game, or just the excitement level in the photo?
It's a great question, and I think that was the balance. And one thing I wrote about a bit in my introduction was to marry sort of the aesthetic value, a really interesting photograph that could go on and teach you things and look at it the longer you did, with having news galleries and being of a person who was crucial in the development of the game, or an event, or a time. I should mention, with each of these photographs, there's about 250, 300 words of text. We hope written evocatively to bring back the time and the context around the photograph, so that augments what you've seen. But it really was sort of marrying those two things, because, you know, there's many signature events, such as Babe Ruth calling his shot, or even more recently, Kirk Gibson's home run, where there really aren't great pictures of it. In fact, the vast majority of iconic major events, there aren't great still photographs of. Some of them in recent past couple of decades we associate with imagery because we see video of it, of course, and think there must be great images, but it's rather limited. So when you get a picture such as Willie Mays making his back to home plate catch in the 1954 World Series, that's a rare moment when a lot of context, a lot of content, and an aesthetically beautiful photograph come together. And we tried to do that when we could, and we're often able to.
About what percentage of the photos are directly from Sports Illustrated?
I'd say about 65%, 70%. You know, we baseball, we only started in 1954 at Sports Illustrated, so anything before that obviously was not. Although many of those may have appeared at some point in photographs in Sports Illustrated, they weren't taken by Sports Illustrated photographers. So when you get to about 1954 on, it's predominantly Sports Illustrated, but leading up to that time, it's obviously not. So I'd say it's about 65% or so ends up being directly shot by Sports Illustrated.
Could you tell us a little bit about the unsung heroes that capture these great photos?
I mean, the photographers themselves. Look, in all sports, it's a little bit of a combat sport to try to get your position and try to get the right location. Often, with other photographers jostling as well. Taking pictures of baseball has changed so much. I mean, there was a time in the 30s and 40s when people would be right on the field taking the pictures, and they'd have to get out of the way of home plate when the guy came out to score. They'd just be standing right up the baseline when Joe DiMaggio, say, was in his swing. That, of course, has changed, and the need for that has changed as equipment has gotten better. The thing about baseball that's different from a lot of other sports is you don't really know, with the exception of the pitcher throwing the ball, where the action's going to come from, who's going to make the play in the field, where there's going to be a play in a base. I had one photographer who worked for Sports Illustrated, a guy named Ron Madra, long-time baseball photographer, and he was shooting in the 70s and 80s. He said when he shot the Yankees, he would just keep his camera on Greg Nettles when the Yankees were in the field, because he thought there was a good chance that he might, if the ball was hit them, he might make an acrobatic play or make an elegant-looking play at great form. And what Ron said, and other photographers have echoed, is that you're kind of waiting for a moment, and if you leave the day with one or two really good or even great photographs, even after shooting many rolls, then that's a successful day. So I think, like the sport itself, shooting baseball is colored as much by failure as by the great successes.
Is baseball still America's pastime?
Oh, I think it is. I really do. I mean, I know that when you look into gambling and fantasy, that of course elevates the interest in football, and we have people tuning into an otherwise meaningless Thursday night football game because of their fantasy interest and their gambling interest, and that of course makes it, gives it a lot of heft and a lot of sway in terms of eyeballs on the sport. But I think that when you look at all the number of people, right, the 75 million, 100 million people who will walk into a baseball stadium, just a major league stadium, let alone the whole minor league system, and who will see the game, enjoy the game in pieces of it, or the whole thing. I think it still is America's pastime, and it still is a game that's unique to our character. And I think the time will come when baseball will, particularly as football battles with the concussion issues and other issues around physical detriment. Baseball still has a lot of growing to do, and I think we'll see that in the next decades.
So you feel it'll expand back to more of a national game? Because right now it feels very local or regional, where if your team's doing well, you really care about your team, but to care about the other teams as much, like you said, because of football having the fantasy football and the gambling, where people will care about other teams, it seems.
I mean, that's a really good point. I think that that is a great thing about football. A great thing that football has going for itself is the way it's busted out of the local, the more provincial thing, which honestly it's true pretty much for hockey and basketball as well. Obviously, if you get a star such as LeBron or some other stars, they might change that. But so getting back to a national relevancy is definitely a challenge, and I think that that we see a little bit of it around playoff time, but it's definitely a challenge with the number of games that are played to get people interested into a game. Games throughout the season, the way people can get interested on a Sunday afternoon with any old football game. So that is a challenge. I don't know exactly where that's going to land, but I think that on a local level, baseball's going to continue to expand, and if the right moves are made, it has a chance to nip back into a greater national following.
What is your favorite era in baseball history?
I mean, I guess I like of course, the 50s were a great time for New York baseball, but a lot of other cities were, of course, left out. But there was something very beautiful about the way that those times unfolded. But I think more sort of the 80s and 90s, for me, and given where I was growing up and all that, those are the times that mean the most to me, having seen some of the guys that played in that time, whether it's Mike Schmidt or Pete Rose and Tom Seaver, and so that's an era that matters a lot. But I'll say I'm as big and avid a baseball fan today as I've ever been, and I love the game and love the way it's played. Obviously, there are some exceptions, and guys like Manny Machado not running when they hit a ball just still drives me crazy. Whether that's old school or new school, it's just unacceptable. But for the most part, I think the game is terrific and love watching it. And so for me, I think baseball is baseball, and you can basically pick a great star, a great team from any era, and you'll find something to enjoy and take from it.
Who are some of the most, just a couple, because there are so many, who are some of the most influential players in baseball history, and did you make a concerted effort to have them in the book?
Yes, that's a great point. Of course we did, so obviously Jackie's in there, and Babe Ruth is in there, Lou Gehrig is in there, Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, on and on. The guys who are really sort of, if you were to take a look at the 10 most influential, Ty Cobb, Stan Musial, Pete Rose, they're there and they're represented in some way. Joe DiMaggio, of course. And some of these guys, you say, hey, is it tough to find 100 pictures? We could have probably done 100 pictures of DiMaggio. Well, certainly 50. I mean, some guys just take really great pictures, and so sometimes it was hard to make it, make a selection. But yeah, going back from all the way back to Connie Mack and going right up to Shohei Ohtani, the new Rookie of the Year, who did something that we've basically never seen. Babe Ruth didn't even quite do what Ohtani did in a single season. So going way back to the early days of Wee Willie Keeler and the first teams of even before that of 1869, right up to Ohtani and the Cubs winning in 2016. Those big luminary players are there.
With your experience with the Pete Rose book before, obviously you probably had a photo in mind when it came to him.
Yeah, well, there were a couple. Again, he's another guy who's very photogenic. He always slid head first at people in your area, I'm sure, remember or know. And he would say, hey, I get there faster, and I also get my picture in the paper. And people took a lot of pictures of Pete. So we have the picture that we settled on is him crashing into home plate, and Ray Fosse, the catcher, in the 1970 All-Star game. And that was a significant moment in his career, but also in baseball itself, and it's a very evocative photograph. So that's where we settled. There is another picture, actually, of Pete in the introduction, where we have a few other pictures that are not among the 100, showing him in mid-flight going towards third base. So he was somebody who was, again, like DiMaggio and like several others, where there were a lot of great pictures to choose from.
What is your overall favorite moment in baseball history? Is it pick one?
Well, I would say for me, it's Cal Ripken when he tied Lou Gehrig's consecutive games. I mean, for me, I've covered a lot of sports events and World Series, Super Bowl, and Stanley Cup, and many things. And being there that day in September 1995, and for me, when he tied Lou Gehrig, and you could see they had these numbers out on a warehouse out beyond right field in Camden Yards, and every time it would get to be finish the top of the fifth inning and the game became official, the number would change. It would just kind of on bed sheets or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it would go to the number of games you'd played. So when it went from 2-1, 2-9 to 2-1, 3-0, it was such an incredible moment because it seemed impossible that anybody could play that long. And it was surprising to me how dramatic and the feeling in the ballparks then, because after all, he just showed up and played 4.5 innings, right? It wasn't a walk-off home run. It wasn't a dramatic hitting streak or anything like that, but it was an incredibly powerful moment. And both that day and the next day when he broke the record, and had his sort of loop around the park with fans. To me, that was the most dramatic and surprisingly in many ways, again, because there was no outcome in doubt. Moment in baseball. The ball going through Bill Buckner's legs was another big moment in my youth when that happened.
Where to get the book?
The Story of Baseball in 100 Photographs. It's basically available wherever you might buy books. It's at Amazon. We have a special edition at Barnes & Noble, which includes some bonus Sports Illustrated coverage. And it's available, again, wherever you would get books, from Sports Illustrated and The Story of Baseball in 100 Photographs. And, if you look through my name, Kostya Kennedy, I have the introduction. So you'll find a way to find it.
Excellent. Who are some of the people that you would like to thank for the book?
Well, I'd like to definitely thank all the people at Meredith, which is our parent company, for putting the book out. Stephanie Kaufman, who is a wonderful operations person, and Bill Sykin, who wrote most of the text throughout here, was a wonderful partner to work with. Miriam Marceau is our photo editor. Gary Stewart and Eric Marquardt did some design. So it was really very, very much a team effort and a collaborative thing to get to where we got.
If fans are wanting to follow you on social media to learn more about baseball, where would be the best place to check you out at?
I'm on Twitter, Kostya Kennedy, Kostya Kennedy. I have a website, KostyaKennedy.com. I have an author's Facebook page as well. So throughout general social media, there I am. I have an Instagram, but I don't use it that much.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank you, Kostya Kennedy, the author of The Story of Baseball in 100 Photographs by Sports Illustrated, and we appreciate you joining us.
James, thanks so much for taking the time. Good talking with you.
My pleasure.